Okay, today we're going to show you how to assemble the Vicehead Resinworks fuel propane trucks in the 55 Kenworth. So, most of these are going to be the same for different trucks, but this particular one is the 55 Kenworth. So we have some parts here and I'm going to kind of go through them with you. That little piece there is an exhaust stack. I actually broke that off the supports while moving it around. It did sit right here. There's another exhaust stack right here. We have 4 fuel tanks, 2 per truck. They are kind of site specific. They're close enough that honestly no one's ever going to notice. But these are included here. You will most likely not use them due to the design of this vehicle. So you'll have some extra fuel tanks if you want. We have 2 bumpers, front bumpers. They just glue onto the underside of the front of the cab. We have a bunch of mirrors because I am horrible with these things. I lose them, I paint them, I cut them off, I lose them, I cut the mirror versus the support. So there are a bunch of them here. Should be plenty to do what you need to do with them. So we have 2 cabs, both are the same, so they will fit either chassis. Don't have to worry about, making sure one's going to fit. We have our propane tank body, which has toolboxes and all that built in as you usually see in the era. And then we have a fuel oil tanker body. Again, this is the bumper and the stacks, as we said. Then we have a chassis, 2 rear axles, a chassis, and 2 more rear axles. Again, these are all interchangeable. There's no specific spot for any of them. So you could use this, and this on one of them if you want, and it's not going to hurt anything. So it makes it easy for assembly. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take all the supports off as the next step that are in the way of painting. So these on the side of the doors that hold up the door handles, any on the side of the wheels will be removed, and then I'll start painting them. I'll give the chassis stuff a base coat of black, and I'll go ahead and do the wheels in black. I'll paint the bodies and get the general colors down and do more details towards the end of final assembly. But we're going to get these painted. I usually keep them on the rafts. If you want, you can get your track nippers out and cut the rafts down, so you have something to hold the model in place as you're painting it with your airbrush or whatever. And that works very well for the bigger pieces. And you could do sections of the smaller pieces, like these mirrors. You could easily cut them down into a section and paint them all at once if you prefer. So I'm going to do the removal of the supports and the painting off camera for you, and then show you how it goes together. Okay, we have the Vicehead Resinworks fuel and propane 55 Kenworths painted, and we're going to get on assembly. We actually have too many fuel tanks in here because I painted all of these Kenworths at once, so I got some parts mixed up, but it's okay. Just to give you a quick better view, you can see how the paint came out. It actually came out pretty good. The airbrush is a lot better than the hand brush, so that does make quite a difference there with the airbrush, and I'm happy with that. So we have a couple kits here. One's on supports, one that's not. We're going to go with the one that's not to start out with. And we're going to set the others aside. Now, these rear wheels are still on supports either way. We're just going to pop them off. Little gentle pressure. You can just roll them off. I de-supported a lot of the pieces because they can be kind of time consuming, but these wheels are easy. So first thing I like to do is start with the wheels. And this is not going to hold itself in place well, but that's okay. So make sure our glue's ready to go. Super glue is probably your best bet. That's actually going to be better for us. The crusty tip just finally broke off. So just put the wheels in place. Give yourself a drop of glue. If you want, you could spin the glue in. Let that sit for a second. Nice, simple, easy install. And we're going to do the same with the next one. Wheels in place. Drop the glue. And that one's already fairly well fixed, so we're not going to spin that particular one. You can see the support marks on the bottom here still. They're not going to hurt anything, nor is not painting the bottom. If you wanted to, you could sand them off with a nail file. That's what I use to sand them off. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to prep the chassis now, which goes together roughly like that. So these Kenworths have a little bit of play in there, and that's kind of by design. If you wanted to shim them out or place them a little higher to give a little more wheel clearance, you can. But if we mock things up here, it can sit pretty much right on there. So we're going to take this here body piece, and we are going to put a few drops of glue on it, and then put the chassis in place where we see fit. As you can see, there is a little play, so you do have some adjustment, and you can always trim that block at the end down if you want a little more. Just gives you a few options for customizing these kits, because not every truck looks exactly the same. Now the chassis, when I set that on there, I'm liking that. I'm liking the low kind of low kind of look on the front of that with a little bit of a rake. So we're going to keep that going, and we're just going to put a little glue on the chassis rails. You don't need a lot here, and I'm probably putting way more than you need. And then we're going to set the chassis on top and make sure it is sitting properly between the rails, and make sure the front wheels are lined up as you want. And there we go. So this kit also has fuel tanks. I never actually tried to see if the fuel tanks will fit on here. I included them if you wanted to use them. Now, in this particular case, we're not fitting the fuel tank. But, like I said, these are the test prints. I think I'm going to keep that like that for now. And more typical on one of these bodies would be to notch this out, which that area is fairly thin. And one of those hobby saws should do a fairly easy job notching it out before paint. So if you want to put fuel tanks on, you very easily could right before paint. A lot of these older trucks could have fuel tanks in other areas. They did some weird stuff on them. So this one, we're going to pretend it's got one in the back. Just because it's easy that way, and I don't feel like notching that out right now. So last thing's our exhaust stack, which is going to go approximately here, as you can see. So If you want to be really hardcore about it, you can put a drop of glue right there. Pick up your exhaust stack and put it into place. And that'll give you proper positioning. As long as this dries in a timely manner, doesn't stick my finger to it. That'll give you proper positioning without having a bunch of glue on the body of the vehicle. And we're going to let this dry a moment. Hopefully it's dry enough to get my finger off here now. Haha, yes it is. And as you can see, I had a little glue on my finger and got it on the tires. They can be touched up nice and easy. Right there is a 55 Kenworth propane truck. If you wanted to finish it with the last detail, we do have a bumper to put on here. So we're going to take our snips and snip along the edges, being careful there we go, not to damage those little supports on the back. This is the same bumper as on the RD 190 trucks, but this one's not keywayed. You can just kind of place it as you see fit, and that allows you to do more of a drop bumper by putting the offset T-slots towards the body of the truck, or if you put them facing away from the body of the truck on the bumper, you can have more of a rise bumper. We're going to do the kind of factory style rise bumper. Come in here and just put a drop or two of glue on it. 1, 2. Then hold that in place so it dries. If you do over glue it, some gentle breathing on it will help set the glue. The super glue or CA glue would be ideal for this. Super glue is basically the same chemical makeup, so they work well for the resin. And we have all the details on now, and you can see it's a nice little truck. Dual axle propane truck, 55 Kenworth. Adds to the fact that my finger's sticking to it because I still glue my fingers. Really should have let those dry, but sake of the video. Really adds to the realism of your layout when you have trucks that are actually built and functional. So put that one down there. And we're going to continue with the fuel truck, which is 95% the same process actually here. We do include these mirrors, which I gotta take some time and cut out and put on. But you just cut the supports off there, and then you put them on with tweezers, and you just put them into place, which we're gonna get done on these. But I'm gonna do that off camera because that's tiny stuff, and I have to focus on that. So we'll make sure that one's done off camera. As far as removing these supports, like I said, I usually use the hobby knife on these. The hobby knife makes a nice clean cut underneath the bottom here. Most of these were already loosened, which helps. And I did slightly customize these trucks. I painted them all the same color because I didn't want to get involved in a bunch of cleaning of the airbrush. The airbrush I have is not ideal for painting one truck, but it did work fairly well for painting a whole fleet of trucks. So there we go, removed from the supports. We could sand that little nub down if we wanted, but we'll be fine without. And then For these, break the strong supports, usually in 4 to 6 per spot, depending on how well these bodies are holding to the rafts, because these light supports don't hold on very well sometimes. They will have release issues, so I'll add more medium supports to actually support the model in the printing process. So if you break the big supports again, little ones should peel right off. And you can see those little supports leave barely any marks on there. So I am going to leave them. And same process here. Go ahead and pop the wheels off. And we're going to put them on. This time, I'm going to kind of just do it a little lazily, and I'm going to put a drop of glue there, a drop of glue there, and put these two into place. Let them dry for a moment and get the chassis ready. Actually, while we're letting that dry, we can do the front bumper. Again, you can see the larger supports, hopefully. Snip there, which I normally do with a hobby knife, but I don't have that right next to me now. You can pull the front bumper out. Set your supports aside. And our chassis should be good to go on now. We're going to build it in basically the exact same spec. Put that little bit of glue there. And we're going to put this in right down towards the bottom. I probably could have painted this a little better here by removing the supports there. I did not think of that, so to each their own. I don't think that's going to factor in too much for me. On this particular one, I might try to add a fuel tank in though. So let's see if we could fit one here. If you place it right, you should. Oh yeah, see? Proper placement, that'll work. And these more complicated bodies were a little hit or miss on how they were put together. Every one was a little different. Sometimes you get a lot of stuff that was one-off and custom to the body, and sometimes the body would just use exactly what the chassis comes with. So fuel tanks are optional, as long as you can justifiably put it into your chassis. And there we go, that one's in place. These are a lot easier to put on with the body right there holding it in place. It's so much easier. So make your day easier if you're gonna go ahead and use them. That was super easy. And this time, another way to do this, I just assembled it upside down. I'm gonna put a couple glue tacks in here to hold everything together. Now, if you did notice, I put the fuel tank on the driver's side. If you are going to run one fuel tank, run it on the driver's side. And that glue is dry, so we're going to go ahead and toss the stack on. Which is going to be pretty much exactly the same as the last truck. Hoping this time I don't stick my fingertip too bad. There you go. See, the exhaust stack is on. We have the bumper left. And like I said, I'm going to give a wee bit of customization to these. You know, when you order a whole bunch of trucks, not every one is going to be exactly the same. So I mean, you could. And it's much more common in modern trucks, but these were built back in the day when it became, what do you want? So usually the company that has 30 trucks would ask the driver, what do you want in the truck? They might say, oh, we want the bigger engine. We want a manual, we want a certain transmission. We want a new 10-speed, which 10 speeds were becoming popular at this time. Or they might say, oh, I want all the chrome. So some of the guys would get all the chrome, some of the guys would get the big engine, and that's kind of how companies would build their trucks back in the day. So that's kind of how we're building these, slight little variations. This one has a red bumper. So somewhere in there I had a battery die, so if the editing turns out horrible, I apologize. So here we go, 55 Kenworth, fuel truck, single tank. Is, you know, it's just going around town. It's not traveling across country. You don't need a whole lot of fuel capacity, which is kind of how they thought back then. And there's the propane truck. So I'm going to go ahead and toss the mirrors on these off camera, as I said, and give you a final shot of what they look like. And here we go. Those mirrors are in place. That's about all I can say. I did not place them well. I am no good at these mirrors. I mean, it is what it is. That's just a little above my skill set still. But you can clearly see they are in place. They are good enough. If we turn one around here, you look real closely, you can actually see there's a slight inset in the mirror. So the file I modeled is amazing for these, actually. It's just, I am horrible placing them, so there you go. We'll give you a little backside view of this one. So you have two 55 Kenworth models, one a fuel truck, the other a propane truck, completed and ready for your layout. Mine is maybe putting some decals on it, which I'm looking into right now. I'm pretty sure I'm going to offer some free decal sheets for the truck, so you can put some fictitious companies on them as you wish, just to kind of give you that little more detail. So if you enjoyed this video, we're going to do a lot more assembly videos. Keep watching.